Let's get started. So why don't you kick this off? I know you got some exciting news.
Yeah, I do. So basically, after my last session with you, basically a few days after, my company approached me and asked me if I wanted to be promoted early to the leadership position I was transitioning in. There were some strings attached, but basically, I have been promoted to this position as of Tuesday this week. So pretty new everything. But the strings attached are I have to pass the AC before I basically before I get the pay increase. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
But
oh,
yeah.
yeah, I was gonna
Uh,
say congratulations first of all. But yeah, okay,
Thanks.
continue,
Yeah.
continue.
Okay, there's one more thing I'm pretty happy with. They approached me and basically said, "We believe in you. We believe you can pass the AC, and no matter what, if you pass the first time or not, you will become this leadership, or you can transition into this leadership position, and basically have the ability to try the second time next year." So that's a fallback relief for me, but I have to admit it's not as big as I has thought about this. Yeah.
Wait. I wanna. There's a lot to
Okay.
talk about. So,
Yeah.
okay. So first of all, you said if you pass, everything's fine. You get the pay increase. If you don't pass, they
Yes.
said they believe in you enough that you'll pass the next time, so that things will be still. You'll still be in the leadership position, but you won't have the pay increase till next year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's good, and I'm sure you'll pass. I think everything's gonna go great. What was that last thing you said though about not as big as you thought?
So basically, they told me the possibility that I could transition into this leadership position early, and they mentioned that I would be able to take the exam. I have to take the second time, which was news to me. That wasn't the deal we agreed up on early, and I thought this was a news that would take a stress level down for me, but it didn't.
Okay. Yeah, the stress level of having a fallback
Yeah,
wasn't
right.
as big as you thought.
Yeah,
All right, so you're basically saying you're still stressed.
right.
Okay, yeah. All right. Uh, all right. Well, look, I will say this: you're set up very well, so at least the foundation is there to not be
Yeah.
stressed. One of the questions I had for you is when is this exam? Because you said it was March, but I don't think I know exactly when.
I haven't told you, but basically it's before this 22nd. I can't name the date
Okay,
officially
okay, never
because
mind.
yeah,
Yeah. I'll just say like mid to late March. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, okay. So we'll find out probably before the next session, well, thereabouts at least, of
yeah.
mentoring that we do. How do you feel preparedness wise? We talked a lot about you wanting to achieve perfection, and it was really
Yeah.
the safety net. Well, now you have another safety net, and you're still like, no, I still want to make sure I go through this first time. So yeah.
So I feel prepared. I had the possibility to have, yeah, basically I had some possibility to train for this assessment center I have to take for this examination by talking to some employees that are now my employees, basically, which were before my colleagues, and I feel good about it. There's one thing I have to still study, but this was on plan, so I'm on track for this. What I have laid out for me. So basically, the 3 weeks before the examination, I have some study plan laid out for me. So I'm on track. I feel good about this, but the stress levels are really high, um, especially because there's so much new stuff flying in onto me by becoming the new leader, by transitioning into this leadership position. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to back up to something that might not actually be important, but you said you talked to some employees who are now your employees. Are they people
Mhm.
who took the exam?
No. So I have someone that took the exam about a half year ago,
Hmm.
but the exam is so changed from session to session that basically they only can tell you about the process they went through and not about the exam you took or you will take.
Yeah.
Because it is changed. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. It was about that process. So, all right, you talked to some people, you feel prepared, you've got a plan for the rest of the preparations, you've got a fallback for if that doesn't pan out, so that a year from now you can still have your position. You're probably, this probably doesn't matter, but if anyone fails the first time around, do their odds of passing the next time drastically increase because they got some experience?
I don't have the stats. No, I don't
Okay,
have
yeah,
the
I wasn't
information
sure.
here.
So I want to ask you, how would you feel? And this is just to explore where the stress is coming from. How would you
Mhm.
feel if you found out in April, okay, you did not pass. We were serious about what we said though. You keep your leadership position. We try again in a year. What is your reaction to this? How do you think your life changes?
So basically, I get notice of my passing, my grade, basically on the day I take the exam.
Oh, I see.
It's
Okay, yeah.
yeah, right. And I will be bummed if it doesn't work out for I don't know, a day, 2 days maybe max. But then it's an okay. That's reality. Let's move on. I have something else to focus on. My new employees I have to lead no matter what. And yeah,
Okay.
basically leave it behind. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get that this can be stressful. This is a big thing. But I would say with this new fallback, it's not as high pressure as it was. It wasn't like, well, I'm going to keep my old job. This sets my plans back. But your plans are moving forward regardless. And you've got these new employees, you've got new responsibilities, you've got probably quite a lot on your plate. And like you
Yeah.
said, this is as of what, 2 days ago, really, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all very new. And I'm sure that's going to change your life a lot for the next probably few months at least. And then maybe you'll have settled into routine. So I still want to understand though where the stress is coming from then. So you just said I would accept this reality after a couple of days at most
Mhm.
and I would move on. You'd presumably still prepare next year for the exam. You'd rise
Yeah.
to the occasion of your leadership position. So why is this built up as much as it is in your head?
I don't know. I'm really competitive. As I mentioned, I did martial arts for about 21 years, and I think it has something to do with my competitiveness. Um, but that is far-fetched. I have this stress. I know I have this stress, but
Yeah.
I can't reason why I have this stress.
Okay, yeah. But not necessarily why. Yeah. And I think that's normal. I think that's how stress works for a lot of people. It'll strike you, a week from now when you wake up in the middle of the night and you'll say, "Oh my God, that's why I'm stressed" or something. And it doesn't necessarily matter. And you've got a plan for tackling all this anyway. And we're talking about a hypothetical here. So I won't dwell on this too much. If there's no way we can reduce your stress in the next 3 weeks, then there's no way we can do that. The one thing I would say though is that why I recognize the competitiveness, but this isn't a competition. And I think it's important to separate those things, right? There's no one who can take this position from you. And the only thing you're really competing with is that grade scale of did you pass or did you fail? And that's it.
I'm comparing against my peers that transitioning into this position as well. That is my baseline. I want to be better at them.
Okay. I want to explore two parts of that. One, suppose you, and this is probably not even possible, but suppose you did 8 times better than them on the exam. Um,
Yeah,
what would that mean to you?
I don't know. It doesn't mean anything to be better than them. It would mean a lot to me if I would be worse than them.
Okay. And something to be worse. So that was one thing I wanted to ask about. The other thing I wanted to ask about is how do you know their scores?
They would tell me. So
Oh,
basically, we get a scorecard for how we ranked in each category, basically, and they don't have to share them, but we were pretty open about this, and I would guess that we would share them. Yeah.
I see. Okay, how would you feel about this? You leave the exam, you feel like you did amazingly, you get back the result, you pass with flying colors, and you don't talk to your colleagues about their scorecards.
The issue I have is there are two peers that will take the exam before me,
Hmm.
who will make the decision of sharing their scores before I could basically share my decision to not to do, do so.
Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah, and again, I'm just kind of exploring this. You could potentially say, you know what? I don't want this pressure. I want to dial down the competitiveness. So what if we didn't talk about our scores? Anyway, I think this is all fine. What I
Yeah.
don't want to have happen, and I think this is something we need to figure out, is you end up doing well, you pass, you got your leadership position, you got your pay raise, and then you talk to your colleagues and you end up feeling worse about passing because they passed even better. You know, that's not a helpful thing.
I think that's the same as not passing the exam. I would be bummed for
Okay.
maybe a couple hours, and that's it. I wouldn't. It's basically an examination for a day, right? If you have a good day, maybe your score is better than if you had a worse day, and
Mhm.
hence the comparing scores isn't really viable either way.
Okay. All right. Well, good. I hope it goes well. I want to talk about
I
the
hope so too.
even bigger part of what you said here, which is you got the new position. So you've had it for 2 days. I don't expect you to be able to answer sort of all the questions, but what's been new? How has it felt? How many employees do you have? What does your life look like now?
Uh, really stressful. A lot of meetings. So I had a lot of meetings beforehand, but basically they were all in an 1 hour block
Hmm.
each day, and basically up to 8 meetings, as I have an 8 hour workday. Um, the interesting thing is, since yesterday, my first real day, I have a lot of half an hour
Yeah.
meetings scheduled,
Yeah.
which increases the amount of context changes you have to make on a given day. Yeah.
Yeah. And that can be very tough. Um, oh man, my keyboard just broke. So all right, I can't type numbers anymore. Uh, yeah, I was gonna say having I guess now sort of up to 16 meetings, but it's probably never actually going to be that much. Is that
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so up to 8 hours. And so now they're half-hour chunks. Um, the context switching part, I've heard from people who are in meetings for that long every day that they tend to just eventually hit a point where they can't really absorb anymore. And so part
Mhm.
of the issue becomes prioritizing the important meetings for earlier in the day when you're still fresh enough to do that, and maybe a little bit after lunch. But then it's like, not late afternoon. It's hard to still function. Do you find
It's-
that? Has it been tough?
uh, I'm pretty used to having a lot of meetings, and I have started basically a few years ago to take meeting notes while I have a meeting,
Hmm.
which makes a context change really easier, but not really easy. But this helps a lot. And my prioritization, I haven't figured out yet, but I have someone I can ask. So basically, my manager now is basically someone I can yeah work with and talk to if I struggle to prioritize, especially between um, meetings with our customers and meetings with our employees or CEOs and stuff.
Hmm.
And this is that's news to me, and I have to figure it out. But I have a way to go about
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Okay. And so remind me, you had your manager now is is different from the one before? Because I remember there was something a little
Yeah.
unusual. You were okay, yeah. So it is a different manager. Um, and what is your relationship with them? Did you already know them?
That was the guy I admired his empathy levels and his business skills.
I
So
see.
he was the one who hired me. I had my first meetings with this company with this man, and I have a really good baseline with him. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned lots of meetings, but you already had meetings, but now they're just more segmented than they were before.
Mhm.
I remember when I was talking to you about this a while ago that you said once you transitioned, you'd be expected to do a lot of those meetings still, and then also manage people, and then also maybe some other things.
Yeah.
So, what is that? I know you said you're still working on prioritization. What is the expected spread of work? How are you going to carve out time to grow your direct reports?
So I have a really good level sympathy level with my customers. I have a few I talk to basically on the day on a daily level, and they didn't know I was transitioning into this leadership role, but we had the ability to talk to them yesterday, and basically I told them that I have to reduce my time in this project and work on employee stuff
Hmm.
and leadership stuff. And obviously they were bummed because we have such a good relationship, but yeah, they were totally understanding, and I think they really yeah, they congratulated me for this role and the possibilities, and yeah, but so this was the one side of my prior job.
Yeah.
I am able to reduce the meetings I have with customers, basically by telling them. The other side is my product owner position with my internal meetings I have in this company,
Hmm.
and there's a long way to go. Both my manager and I think that if I cut out the meetings as I should to uh, basically the project would die over the years. And hence, my manager and I am talking about finding a long-term solution. Maybe is hiring someone that can take over the role, but the person I was leaning on isn't quite there yet. They can take some chunks of me off, but not too much yet.
Yeah. So you'd mentioned that a while ago that you were essentially training someone to take this over. Yeah. So that's the person, and you said they're not
Yeah.
quite there yet. And your management chain agrees enough to the point where they say we might need to hire somebody as opposed to let's develop this person. Is it would developing that person take, let's say, like years to do?
Basically, they need a lot of one-on-ones, and I can't carve out the time to do so. And my we are leaning towards using someone internal, which has the prior experience in the project, but in I'm working on a sub project of a big project of a
Yeah.
big customer base with a big product, and basically someone using someone on another sub project and transitioning them into my sub project to take over my role.
I see.
That's one possibility we are discussing, but it hasn't figured out. It has been not figured out yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. How would you feel if everyone agrees in your management chain that this work should get dropped because your work that you're doing now is more important?
Basically, I don't think that my upper management would agree. I They are leaning towards more prioritizing the project and the customers before leaning towards the employees, which is, in my opinion, not the right prioritization because well, managing my employees could lead towards more output.
I see.
But that's difficult. So my upper management is basically focused on the money, where the money is at, and my project is one of the biggest monetization projects my company has
Yeah.
at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. And so what I'm trying to reconcile here is this management was all involved in this promotion and offering this to you
Yeah.
early. So they're clearly they've identified that this need is now. It's not waiting until the end of March where we can
Yeah.
find out the results. So they recognize that. They presumably know what goes into the role and what they're asking of you. And then at the same time saying, well, they may not have said this yet. It sounds like some of
Yeah.
it might be an assumption on your part.
Yeah.
And so it's possible that they say, you know what, we just want you to focus on this role. We want you to make sure your direct reports are happy, that you're managing these new meetings, that you yourself are happy. And so um, if they did still have the expectation that this project moves forward and you yourself have said you don't have the time, what do you plan to do about it?
So basically, there's a strategy and vision meeting with upper management next week, so Thursday and Friday, and there's. I was invited as the product owner, as my previous occupation, and we will be discussing the future of this, of this project and how we move forward. And I would hope that we will discuss this issue as well next week.
In my mind, that there is no project without someone to work on it. And there is currently not someone to work on it solely unless you somehow carve out the time or get this other person the one-on-ones that they need, or that other person from the other sub project can migrate over. But so those are essentially the three routes, right? You carve out the time, you raise this other person up, you get this other person from the sub project. If those things don't happen, it's what needs to be sacrificed for this to move forward. And I don't see that working out based on what you've said. It's like, what are you going to not give attention to some of your direct reports?
Yeah, right.
Right. So in my mind, this has to come up at this meeting, and it probably has to be like the number one thing to talk about, because otherwise people might fall into this rhythm of, okay, it's been a week or two since our last meeting or vision meeting. I don't know how many of these people know the news, and no, let's just talk about the next features we want to work on. And you're like, well, hold on a second. So I would say, like, make sure this gets discussed for sure.
Yeah.
And then figure out ahead of time what you want. And so what is your ideal outcome here?
So I don't know if there is a clear path towards what I have in mind, but I have a clear vision of what it should be. And this is, I want to be managing the new product owner of the current project. So basically, stepping the ladder up, leaving some control behind, but basically having still the influence into this project, so we can still steer the project where it needs to head. I don't want to become the PO of the POs. That's but basically that's the goal I have in mind.
Yeah. For one, I think that's the only thing that makes sense, because you have the expertise and you had previously been the sole product owner with this mentee beneath you who was you were helping out. And so any of the options that we've talked about, if someone were to come over from this other sub project, I assume they'd report to you for at least this part of it. If your mentee ends up taking over, they're almost certainly reporting to you. They're already a report of you right now, right?
No, actually not. But they would be in the sense that I have the experience in the project, so they would tend to lean on towards me, but without being my actual report on the paper.
I see. And then the third option was hiring someone in, and I assume again that they would say, "Yep, we're hiring them under you to report to you." Okay, yeah. So I think that's good. Of those options, then, and I know you said you don't have a clear idea of what that path is, but which one sounds the best to you? Like, let's say you iron out the wrinkles. Which would you want, your mentee, a different person from the sub project, or an external hire?
I think there is no option. There is no way around doing both. So I would think that my mentee would take over, especially for the first part and being a direct report of mine. But there needs to be someone else that joins this team. Basically, the workloads are the same in the project, not even others. So I'm leaving the project, the workload is the same, and the mentee was working towards this project. So we need someone else to come in too.
I see. And is the eventual plan to have that mentee of yours be the sole owner? Because if you hire someone from outside and they're hired for this project, they might say, well, now I'm going to take over what Peter used to be.
The project is big enough where we could hire 5 new product owners and they would have full-time jobs. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah. So this gives me some insight into what's going on here. And here's how I think you could pursue this. I think you could say essentially these thoughts that you've shared here. We have a lot of breadth with this project, and the more people we put into it, essentially the more revenue we could get out of it.
Yes.
And we just need people to look at that. This is the kind of, I think, convincing and leadership that is going to be sort of expected of your role. You're essentially planning strategy of this product in terms of human resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so this meeting that's coming up on Thursday or Friday of next week, I think, are you the one sort of running it?
No, actually, my IC level, so CEO and both CEOs had invited to this meeting, but I would assume that they don't come prepared. So basically, I would take over the moderation role and basically lead this.
Okay, yeah. All right. And so
Now.
do you have a clear enough path for how that'll work based on what we've talked about now? Because it sounds like you've got the ideas swimming around. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I won't belabor this at all. I think it's good. I think it's good that you think about what it is you want out of this. And it sounds like you've got some ideas and what the needs are. So yeah, I trust that you can handle that. Let me see, because I've been writing notes above what you had said. So let me see if we covered all this stuff. First getting to know each other means. Oh yeah, how about this? So you said tomorrow you're going to get to know some of the employees. How many reports do you have right now?
19.
Yeah.
And one is in the air, so it will be increasing to 20.
Oh yeah, I can't type numbers. 19, maybe 20. Okay, so this is the thing that I was at least the most concerned about. You don't seem stressed.
I have some news about this.
Yes,
yeah.
tell me.
So I've been rewatching our latest session, and I think I did some. There's some miscommunication.
Okay.
I'm the. So basically, there is the leadership is split into two. You have the HR person, which basically is for pay increase and working hours and basic skill development. And there's the project part where basically you report to the project leader for guidance on where this project is heading, where product management sits, and where you want to work on. And I'm taking over the role of the leader, which has basically the HR part of those 20 employees, which is not directly. So I have no weekly reports with my 20 employees, but it is expected for me to have at least 2 meetings each year with every employee, and everything on top of this is basically up to you. Obviously, I tend towards skill development and want to stay in touch with my employees and plan on having more meetings, but it's not a weekly communication with them.
Okay, that is very different because
Yeah.
what I was picturing, at least the structures that I'm used to seeing is, I use this number 7, but managers tend to have about 7 reports. That seems to be a number they can handle, because that way, if you're doing a meeting once per week, it's like 3 meetings per day, which is not too bad. They can be about half an hour. Where you're talking about 2 meetings a year. So, and you have 20 people, so 40 meetings a year. That is also kind of close to 1 meeting per week, a little less than that.
Yeah.
But not nearly to the level of what I was thinking originally. So what does the skill development look like for these people if you're only meeting them twice a year?
So basically, those meetings are planned out beforehand, and basically there are 4 categories. What is the employee working on currently? What are they proud of? Which direction would they want to head? Yeah, basically their opinion on the skill development, and then the part where I put down the skill development that is needed for the company, and we try to match them.
Okay. It's is needed skill wise. So this is a pretty templated meeting. It is something that you don't need to go in saying, "Look, I planned out a whole bunch of things based on everything I know about you and examining your work." They do a lot of the prep for that, and you know what's needed, but not out of them specifically, maybe. Or
Right, but I have to be the one figuring out what is needed for the company to move forward.
yeah,
So that is my current role.
yeah, got it. Okay. All right, that is very different from what I thought. I think this is much more manageable because you have I'm just saying a number here. You have 40 hours of meetings per week now essentially.
Yeah.
You're going to cut that down to 39.5 and jam in one of these one of these meetings once per week or something like that. By the way, are they generally half an hour? Are they an hour long?
So those planned meetings are about 2 hours long.
Oh, okay.
But there is a lot of work that goes into these meetings. So the skill development part, basically figuring out what product management wants, because they tend to not know what they want. This is my job now. I have to be the one figuring out what is the direction we are heading, doing strategy and vision for the company, for the project itself, for the product, and basically matching this with with the employees. And I would be responsible for the hiring process. If someone puts down a new skill and we don't have this, I would be responsible to finding this person and hiring them.
Okay. So I did underestimate this in my, trivialized example that I have here. This leads me to another thing though. You've said you wanted to help people grow their careers and you want to focus on the skill development part. This is a significant enough investment from what you've already talked about. If you are needing to do these every so often, maybe the strategy and vision can be done such that you can talk to 10 of your employees with that strategy and vision in mind, and then you do another. But
Yeah.
those meetings still need to happen. You still need to talk to people. What do you plan, without knowing the total role right now, what do you plan on doing for extra skill development? Do you want to meet with people more often? Do you want to just say, "Hey, my door's open"? Like, how do you plan on having this go?
So I plan on having open door meetings, basically a meeting online, a virtual meeting where people can join, employees can join, and we talk about the issues they have. And if there is something we can do to help them. I have established a meeting basically once a month where I present the new findings, the new discoveries I made while analyzing the business skills we need, or the skills we need. And I plan on basically providing the coachings and basically mentoring some of the employees that needs them. We are able to hire some external coaches for basic needs we have, and we are able to find trainings online, or basically trainings online, and match them to our employees we have.
Yeah.
And that is what I try to achieve in the next few months.
Okay. So part of the next few months of getting everyone up to speed is identifying where the biggest needs are and then getting people connected to the resources. I see. Okay, I think there is still quite a lot there. I think another thing that I hear is you said these open door meetings. I think at least in the US we say office hours, which I don't know if I don't know if they're the same, but anyway, it's something where it's like this is on your calendar as a slot that's devoted to this, but
Yeah.
only if people decide that they want to join. So essentially, if no one joined, you'd have that time free.
Right.
And so what happens sometimes is that you become a far enough away figurehead for these people. Like you're a leader, but they're like, I don't want to waste Peter's time with that, and so people may not end up showing up. Are you going to do more to maybe proactively identify where these needs are for people?
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. I scheduled for every my employees. I scheduled in getting to know each other meeting, and I want to ask them. Basically, the management I am replacing now has not invested much time into skill development, and I could imagine that there are some employees that like being left alone without management leadership, and figuring out itself themselves. Um, but that's I don't know this. I want to ask them, what do you expect from me? What would your ideal world in skill development look like? And basically trying to figure out what my employees need to move forward.
Okay. I think it's a good plan. And these meetings start tomorrow? Or do they only run for tomorrow?
Yes. No, they. So I have a maximum of 3 getting to know each other meetings each day, because otherwise it would be too much.
Yeah.
And the first 2 start tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a good idea to set that maximum, especially early on, because you might find out from some of these meetings that, wait a second, I need to prepare something for the later ones that I have. Okay. So let's stop for a second and do what I'm telling you to do sometimes, which is let's look backwards and let's analyze some things. So you
Mhm.
have set yourself on this path and you have been diligently following it to your own, I don't know, dismay. You feel like you haven't been following it enough and yet you've been at maximum stress. And
Yeah.
so, okay, you've been doing great. You've gotten this far. Your company has recognized you. They've said, we want you to move into this position even sooner than we thought. And
Mhm.
you were willing to do that, and now you've started doing everything you need to do moving forward. So I
Yeah.
want you to recognize that you have essentially been living in world A up until this time, and now you're in world B, and it's different. It's new. It's exciting. There's a lot of
Yeah.
opportunity, and this is a lot of what you're telling me here. You've told me about this long-term goal of becoming CTO. This thing about figuring out what does the company need, how do we do it, who do we hire. All of these sorts of things are skills that you're working toward. So again, we need to recognize that you have done this, you have set this up, and it's a great job. And I'm going to ask you what I asked Rami. Did you watch Rami's session?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. How are you going to celebrate?
So I have written down some notes on struggling to finding how to celebrate.
Yeah.
I wanted to celebrate my app release, and I was not able to find something what I could do to for myself, basically to celebrate. I have 2 things in mind, and one I have scheduled for Saturday to celebrate my app release, which is going climbing.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't climbing since I was a long time ago, and basically this is something I want to try. And there's I want to try getting a massage, which I haven't done ever before, and I want to try it. Yes.
Okay. That's really good. I think the climbing thing, so I'm not trying to judge celebrations. In my mind, it's not a standard celebration because
Hmm.
it's like climbing is something people tend to do, every week. But a massage is not something people tend to do every week. I think that's a great one. And I
Yeah.
think anything else, if you're struggling to come up with ideas, I always think, what brings you joy that you wouldn't do normally. So for me, for
Hmm.
example, I like eating food from a restaurant, but I don't get delivery a lot because it just adds an overhead cost. But if I'm
Yeah.
celebrating, that's something where I say like, okay, cost out the window. Just what do I want to do? What do I? And so for a lot of people, yeah, it can be going somewhere, some hike or a vacation, or playing a game with friends, or just even just letting people know, hey, I am celebrating or something. Hey, you want to come to this thing? You want to come climbing with me? So if you can invite
Hmm.
people to that and say this is a celebratory climb instead of just a regular climb or something, they'll be like, hey, cool, you launched your app.
Yeah.
You can talk about it, and you can live that moment and recognize the thing that you did, the work that you put into it, and what you've accomplished. Because I think that's the
Hmm.
important part of slowing down a bit and not just thinking, what's the next step? What's the next step? Because it's great to do that when there are fallbacks. So, like you said, if you
Hmm.
found out, hey, my colleague scored higher than me, 100% move on from that pretty much as fast as you can if you feel like
Yeah.
you've processed it, but not the good stuff. So, I want you to live the good stuff a little bit longer. So, you mentioned celebrating your app release. I'm talking now about we need a second celebration. So how?
Right. I have something to add to this. I figured out how I used to celebrate,
Yeah.
and I'm not happy with this. I have written it down a little bit further down, but basically, I was celebrating by spending way too much money on gifts for friends and family. Every time I did something amazing, I did throw out the cost out the window, and but I did not buy something for me, but my friends or family. And yeah, I want to change this, but that was one realization after watching Rami's session. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Okay. So why do you want to change that?
Because the expensive part is really expensive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there are a couple of thoughts here. One, I think it's totally reasonable to change it. Two, you're probably about to get a pay raise. Three, there's a way you can still get gifts for people if that's how you like to celebrate and not have it be, cranked to the maximum for expense.
Mhm.
So, plus, I mean, was that effective as a celebration? Did that let you, like I said, live that moment and acknowledge what you've done?
Not as much as I would like.
Okay.
So it was great for a couple of minutes, but it was not something I would look back on after a day, basically.
Okay, well, I think something I'd like to recommend, and this is based on what we've talked about here, is uh, try to combine this with something where they know it's a celebration. And maybe they did.
Mhm.
You said, like, hey, I launched an app, so I want to get you a gift. But more like, you know, hey, I want to talk about what it was like. Or somehow
Mhm.
it's like if you get together for a birthday party, it's not like, oh, hey, happy birthday, and then you just move on. There's usually, like, at least here, there's some singing, there's like a cake,
Yeah.
there's a ritual around it. And I think that is what will cement in your mind that, like, hey, I did these things. And then when you look
Mhm.
back, you can think, well, look, there were those celebrations. I got a massage for the first time. So now it seals in your head that, like, I did a good thing and I got rewarded for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I've jumped all over the place here, and also let me just check. Yeah. All right, we got about, I think, a little over 15 minutes left. Why don't you catch me up with what you want to catch me up on, because I know you've written a lot of notes and I bounced all over. So, what do you want to
Uh,
talk about next?
oh boy. Uh, So I have one random question, which is basically a yes or no question.
Yeah.
I have the exam I have to take before the next session we would have.
Hmm.
The SC is a virtual meeting, which is basically about 4 hours long, where I have to uh, role play the leader for a criticism talk meeting with an employee, which is all virtual. And I would want to ask you, do you mind this white background, or should I switch it out?
So, this is something you and I talked about a little bit, which is what's personal, what's impersonal.
Yeah.
I am not a good judge of this stuff, and I think, chat, you should definitely chime in right now and give Peter some advice. What do you think for a 4 hour long, professional meeting? Should there be a
Yeah.
white wall? Should it be something else? Should it be blurred? Uh, maybe I think putting up the lettering like twitch.tv/Adam Learns Live. I think that could be good.
Great.
So yeah, I don't know. And
Yeah.
before you asked the question, I hadn't scrolled down yet, and you were like, I have a black and white question. I thought, no, Peter, you can't ask those questions. I want to ask, did you put some thought into realizing when you're asking those kinds of questions to colleagues, the yes
Yes,
or no?
I did.
Okay.
So there is I have a friend of mine which is um, Germanist. I don't know how to translate this. Basically, had studied German
Hmm.
for their career, and I asked them if there are some trigger words to identify those, and we figured out together that no, there are no such trigger words. But I have been reflecting over it before I asked my questions. Hence, I was able to tell you that it's a black or white questions.
So yeah.
Uh,
And I
yeah.
wasn't sure if that was coming from the need to translate from German to English first, because you said you don't do it as much with me, but presumably over there you're
Yeah.
talking mostly in German, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
that's good.
it's I'm still working on it. It's not perfect yet, but I am able to reflect before saying the questions. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. Now I'm not gonna push this and be like, how do we celebrate this? I think for at least the major things, like you launched an app, that's huge. You've been working on it for
Yeah.
a while. You became a leader at this company. That's huge. Like these things, at least you need to do. Now, ideally, it's like asking yes or no questions, and you think, hey, I did something, medium sized. I still should do something nice for that. And yeah, anyway, it can be lots
Yeah.
of different things. Yeah. So, okay, what else did you want to talk about here? And I'm not trying to rush through this. I just want to make sure that we can talk about the things you want to talk about.
So we covered the big topics I wanted to present. I am working on stress management. I noticed you have written down how's my gym streak, my push-up challenge going. I had to take one day off, which feels really annoying, and I know it's my my little emotional voice in my head. But I'm basically on a 13-day streak again, and I had a sick day basically where I really wasn't able to complete one push up. I wasn't really feeling it, and
Wait.
one
The
day off.
sick day is not your lapse in your streak, right?
Yeah, it is.
It is. Wait, that
It
is
is.
not something okay. So, imagine you
I show you why I think about this in this way. I don't know if you can see this.
yeah.
It's basically the app my friend made with a GitHub commit graph, and there's one singular piece missing.
That's true, but okay, I myself have had it as a like a tenet essentially to exercise 3 times a week for the
Mhm.
last more than a decade. And my exceptions are when I'm sick because I don't think it's good to push myself when I'm sick. And other exceptions like some emergency came up where you just really
Yeah.
couldn't predict. So I'm also not tracking this in a graph where I can see that there's a hole in the graph now.
Yeah.
So in my mind, at least, I would say you're on a whatever 30-day streak or
Yeah.
something. Uh, just a different way of contextualizing it, so it doesn't feel like I failed at this, or those are
Mhm.
the ways that I think being easier on yourself are good. You can never go undo that graph, but you know the person who made the app actually. Maybe you could say, hey, could I have a
Maybe,
sick day?
yeah.
Feature request from some guy on the internet. Yeah. So tell me about this stress book.
It's an audiobook I heard.
Mhm.
I didn't find an English translation for this. This is an ChatGPT translation. And basically, it was a book where someone was pretty new in leadership position, and I figured this book could match me. And they went through lot of stress, basically with too many meetings, struggling with upper management, and conveying what their decision were, and basically providing 7 ideas and methods to focus on your stress and finding some way of relieving it,
Okay.
from breathing techniques over meditation towards doing sports. Yeah, 7 techniques, and I'm trying to incorporate them, especially towards the evening, and I think they're helping, but I think the routine is missing yet to be sure if this is really working or not.
Yeah. How much of the book have you completed?
100%,
Okay. Yeah. Um,
8 hours, if someone is wondering.
yeah. So I think, look, on the surface, this is great. I think it's good that you're looking into stress management. I think it's especially good that this book speaks to you. It's someone who is
Mhm.
in a leadership position. It's exactly what you're doing. You haven't mentioned too many struggles with upper management. You said, "Oh, I disagree with their decision that this is the thing we should pursue." So, okay, this is very relevant to you. It's got some ideas. Um, I want to say the same sort of thing I said when you talked about marketing your app, which is there's only so much time in the day, and you only have so much
Mhm.
energy, and you're doing a lot. So, cutting out your stress, in my mind, is a high priority kind of thing. Like you could cut out something else, and it would be
Yeah.
worthwhile to your time, right? Whereas if you say, I'm going to play more video games or something and I'm already playing 4 hours, it might not be
Mhm.
as worthwhile. Um, so yeah, as long as you're keeping an eye on that, I think this is good. I'd like to hear how this goes for you. You mentioned doing sports. You mentioned you wanted to go climbing. You mentioned you've been doing your streak for a while still. So does that factor into this too? Did that play into the celebration idea?
Um, No, so the climbing part and the stress relief book are completely separate in my mind. The climbing part is something I really liked to do a few years back, and I want to find if I still like it. And the stress management is something that helps me prioritize myself over work.
Yeah.
It helps me calm down after a stressful day, and
Yeah. So so I live in a massive tech area in Washington State,
Mhm.
and I have seen a pattern. People who get high enough up in a company, stress management is so much more important than the, quote unquote average person.
Yeah,
And it's because every decision you make is more impactful. You have more people looking to you, more people relying on you, and it doesn't decrease it anymore. You
yeah,
are likely to rise, especially because your goal is to become a CTO eventually.
yeah,
That'll only increase. And so, as much as you can, pay attention to what's working here and try to find strategies that you can continue to use and really work into your day. Because I do think it's important, and I think these are the kinds of things. It's like your posture. If you think about it, the way that you sit, the way you stand, the way you eat, these are all things that you've done probably for most of your life now without ever thinking about it. And that if you wanted to change it, would probably take you months or years of
yeah.
dedicated effort. So yeah, the more you can chip away at that now, I think the better. So I wish you luck. And by the way, climbing might not be something you linked to the stress management book, but it might be something that's helpful. And maybe it's something you say, you know what, I'm really stressed out from work. I'm going to go climb for an hour or an hour and a
Yeah.
half. And yeah, clears your mind. So I wish you luck on that. I think that's really good.
Thanks. Yeah.
Um, all right, the app. I do want to make sure we have some time to talk about this because you did release it. And
Yeah.
how did things go? How do you feel?
I released it, and it I really like this, especially the comments I got on the Discord. I posted it on Discord and on Twitter, basically, and the responses were great. I now know that I don't have any users using the app currently,
Yeah,
but it's not as annoying as thought it would.
yeah,
Um, basically have a new project in mind, and I'm currently working on the next project. As I mentioned, the programming in the evening is something I use to get off my mind, or get my mind off of work. And basically, I needed a new project, and I'm currently working on the next project immediately. It's the first app. I got connected to a designer, which basically did an UI overhaul for free
hmm
for the first app I did, and it's pretty amazing to see how far I got. So basically, comparing the two screens from the new version and the old version. I will post some pictures on Discord, but it's pretty amazing to see. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. First, I think it's good. I would love to see them. I'm sure other people would like to see them too. You said it was amazing to see how far you got. Are you talking about to see how good the new design looks over the old one?
Uh, this too, but also understanding the framework, and I know what the code of the Outlook app looks like, and I completely throwing this out of the window and basically redoing the app one more time, and comparing basically the source codes of those is amazing to see.
Yeah.
But yes, obviously the
Okay.
design is something else. Yeah.
No, that's good. You responded in a way that I was going to steer you toward if you hadn't, which is the whole looking back thing. I think it's important to see that because I sometimes look back and I think, wow, I did something really stupid in the past. And originally, I would feel sort of embarrassed that I would do something so stupid.
Mhm.
And then I started thinking about it in terms of that event helped me grow and that I wouldn't
Yeah.
be the person I am today without that. And so if you don't look back and see your old code and think, I don't know, this is bad, or I've learned a new technique or something like that, then you probably haven't grown too much in that time, or you haven't learned to identify that. And there is a ceiling you eventually probably hit with coding or with any skill where you can't look back and
Yeah.
see that. But I think it's good that you did that. I also think it's good you're excited about this. It's it's sort of funny that you said I just pretty much snap moved on to the next project.
Yeah.
um, and yet it's not that it's unhealthy to move from project to project. I think it's unhealthy to not look at anything you've done or celebrate those successes.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you sound excited. I think this is good. I also want to comment on the no users bit. I think there can be many motivations for making an app, and you mentioned some of them. You want to keep your technical skills sharp. You might want the app yourself just to use, and you had talked about marketing last time, and I'm glad you didn't respond the other way here, which is I don't have users and I need to have users because this is the next level of success for me. So, are you feeling okay about that though?
Yes, but looking on my new project, I think I would run into the same issue before launch. It's some way along the lines I'm so invested into this project. I would love to see users in this app and basically to have the world see what I've done and yeah, basically be able to use my app. And if I find something else to work on afterwards as fast as I did then, as I did now, I don't think it really matters if I have users or not.
Okay. this is this is I think a bit risky. So, uh it, there's a grieving process. So like let's say you lost someone that you love or even a pet or something
Yeah.
like that, that if you don't go through that process, I think it can leave you with these lingering feelings that compound into something bad. um, I hope that you're not masking any feelings of dismay, dejection, anything with, hey, there's a shiny new project. So I just moved on and I really haven't processed it or something like that. And yet at the same time, I don't want you going full throttle saying, well, I need users for this app because that's the only way I'll feel complete with this. So how is that balance in your mind?
I think I tend towards leaning wanting to the new shiny object because I couldn't get users in my app. I would love to not care about the yeah, basically if the world sees my app or not. But I do tend to care about this. Yeah, basically I think you analyzed it right. I tend to use new project in disguise of failing my other projects.
I see. Um, I, I think, okay, I think this involves going back to what the goals are for a project. And okay, I don't know how long it's going to take to talk about this, but every once in a while, I'll come up with a flowchart plan. So, for example, my wife and I make financial decisions that are speculative. So maybe in 5 years something pans out, maybe it doesn't pan out in 5 years.
Mhm.
And so we come up with a flowchart of, well, if it pans out, here's what we do, and if it doesn't, here's what we do. And that plan is not set in stone, so we could go and change it. But when 5 years happens, it at least tells us here's what we were thinking back then. I
Mhm.
wonder if you were to state your goals for a given project before you've started it, and that way, once you're in this position where you're like, well, now I have the design, I've done this code, I'm really excited about it, and the world deserves to see this. They have to. I need to get users for
Yeah.
this. If you go and look back and you say, my goals were to learn X, to have this product to use for myself, to make, $100 a month or something like that, then you could say, wait a second, this is that part of my brain just saying we need something bigger, we need something bigger,
Mhm.
and maybe convince yourself using your own words from the past to do it. So I wonder if you can separate now what your original goals are from the sort of shiny uh, glory, those sorts of goals. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit right now?
I think I know what the original goals of my first app version was, which should be the same as trying to basically it should be the same goals I have now with the same app, um, with a new design basically,
Hmm.
which are I would love to have a niche group using the app without making money for it. I obviously it would be nice to have money, obviously, but I'm more focused on finding someone who loves the app, and basically making someone happy by providing this app.
Okay, so this is a much more reasonable goal for someone who's working on this as a side project, who has a demanding job and who has a bunch of other things going on in their life. And I think you can achieve this. So I write this down. When your app is released or finished, and maybe I should say if, because you can always change plans. But let's say you release this app. I think finding that niche group is not so much about how do I market to the entire world, how do I get 100,000 users, how do I make money every month. It's much more targeted, and is something that I think is achievable in the course of, let's say, weeks or months rather than years. So you don't need a business degree, you don't need to go learn a bunch about marketing. And so okay, I will star this for the next time that I talk about this. I want to say I think this is a good goal after releasing, and it shouldn't take like too many months, I'll just say. Yeah. So, and we'll talk about that some more. All right. I want to ask the same, kind of ending question that I ask all the time, which is, how do you feel in general?
Great. I love this session. I was really looking forward to basically telling you the news. And I think those regular scheduled sessions help me visualize what I have achieved in basically one month. A lot has happened. Really lot has happened, and yeah, I love looking back, analyzing stuff I wouldn't think about, and I think you have a unique perspective on things. And you are quite good at analyzing me and finding out what my deeper ambitions are.
Yeah, well, look, I'm glad. I enjoy the sessions too. I know I'm saying this to the 3 mentees that I have, but you're all unique from one another despite all being in software. You want different things. And also, I want to ask you something else that's kind of unrelated, but what did you think of Rami's climbing project that he did for the Code Jam?
I really liked this idea. I admit I'm not sure if there's a market for it. I know he talked about making maybe a business around this, but I think it's so niche of a project that there has to be someone that wants this product. And coming out of the code jam, basically, it's a really, really neat idea.
Yeah, yeah. So I think so too. And I think, one of the things he mentioned, he said being Dutch, everyone's very blunt and straightforward. So I'm sure he'll take your feedback in a good way. Thank you very much for being here. I am gonna probably, I don't know if you heard, I'm gonna probably put these videos on a different channel starting from now on, because I just want them separate from the main channel. But thank you, Peter.
No worries.
Yeah.
I thank you. And yeah, next time, hopefully with big news.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you will have big news. All right. Well, take care. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Let's switch back to here. All right. Bravo, Peter. Good job. Thank you for being on the show. I will show chat now. Yeah, unfortunately on YouTube, I don't have a Discord link showing up. I can share it in here though.